Thank you guys so much for coming and meeting with us. Today we're going to be talking about monetizing music. I think we've seen so many different talks about how to promote your music, how to create music, but I think this is the important stuff when it comes to money. Everyone loves money, so we're going to have a conversation about it. I'll let our hosts introduce themselves, but my name is Therese. I also go by Ohima. I'm an artist manager, and I run a creator space in Chado called Jambo Spaces.
Shout out to Jambo. Shout out to Jambo.
Thank you.
Check. Okay, it's loud. Hi guys, my name is Jemidofe Caleb. I am the CEO and founder of KVLT. We're a music management / creative company from Lagos, Nigeria. And over the last 4 years, we have been active in the entertainment space in Nigeria. We've handled and built clients like Victoni, Luna, and DJ 67 over the last 4 years. And then we started expanding into the live event space. And over the last year, we built the biggest day party in West Africa called Even in the Day. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Mutombo. I am a creative. Thank you.
Motumbo is being overly modest. Hello, guys. My name is Kofi. I'm sometimes known as Beat Menace in the music space, and my practice is at an intersection of music, a bit of film, brand audits, animation, and law. But I'm a record producer, and I've worked with quite a few artists.
Almost everybody.
And he's lying, but I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so before we get started, let's take you guys through a lineup of what today is. I'm gonna start with asking each of the panelists one question, and then after that, they'll go through some case studies on ways that they've seen people monetize their music. And then we'll also take some questions from the crowd as well towards the end. So hi, everyone. So my first question is, if you could give one piece of advice to young African musicians looking to make a living from their work, what would it be? Just any kind of advice. You.
Okay. I think my biggest tip would be focus on community. I came into entertainment just by studying. I love entertainment. I've been throwing parties all my life. So just in the COVID year, in 2020, when there was nothing happening, that was my new read, entertainment business. And then I met an artist that asked me to manage him at that point in time. In the last 4 years, what I've come to understand that the only artists that last are artists that build community around them beyond the music. So the best thing you can do for yourself is find a way to create a brand that serves a community beyond the value of your art itself. Because talent is actually not enough. The music you're making is really not enough. It is the smallest piece of the puzzle. You know, there's too many other things around it, but I feel like community is the most important part.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna come back to you on the community part, but Matumbo, can you let us know what
Same question?
Yes, same advice you would give everyone in the room.
I do agree with him what he's saying. Having the skill, having the talent is one bit. But for me, instead of community, I would say build relationships because of the direction, the art form is going right now. You have to build relationships because we are all aware. I'm sure there are artists here who are mainly underground and they are struggling to get some coins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's because they stay online or they stay in their studios on Instagram trying to push. And you can only do enough. It's by stepping out, engaging with people, linking up with people, and just, like he said, building a community. And let me give you one solid example that just happened recently. There is this amazing photographer who I'm proud to know, Prince
Yeah,
JC.
Jesse.
Yeah, Prince is a very, very dope guy when it comes to photography, films, films and photographs with the iPhone and all that. And recently, during the Apple iPhone 16 launch, he was featured. Yeah. And if you go on his page right now, he has a video there, and the beat was made by a guy who I know they just linked up. He just knows. If you are indoors doing your own thing, you have fans, you have followers, but they won't think about you when it's that time. It's about going to places, not just events and all that. Going to banks, talk to that guy who is serving you money, because you never know. You tell him or her what you do, and the next time they have an event, you will come to mind. So yeah, like you said, building community and also relationships.
Building community and relationships,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
Kofi.
This is very profound stuff you guys have shared. I can't stress on how important all that stuff is. And I'll just add to what you guys said. I think it's very important for artists to hone their skill, their craft. Right now, AI is crazy. In the next 2 years, AI will be writing better songs, will be lending better vocals to production, and even mixing records better than humans will. Because we have sort of normalized the idea that as a creative person, whatever it is that you do, it'd be cool. Because 6 of your friends, hype you, you have a feature on a playlist on Instagram. But you need to ask yourself the question, if you had everything you wanted or needed in the world, would you still do what you're doing? Because I know a lot of artists who say, what we need right now is money to push the music. Yeah, they get their first $5,000. The first thing they buy is maybe a house, flashy clothes, and all that stuff. They don't even feed it back into the music. So a lot of people, I've realized, in my experience, I may be wrong, and I hope this is not the case for you guys here. A lot of people actually choose to do music because they need a way to get away from a regular 9-to-5 and proper structure. And if you happen to be one of those people, you're in the wrong business because you need to be freaking organized. And we are going to discuss that, we are going to tackle that in a bit. So I'll say use the internet because you have access to a lot of information right now. I'm pretty young, but I'm very old to have been around at a time when you literally had to travel or to tell people to buy books for you to learn certain things that you can easily access on the internet today. So I think that is, for me, based off what my cohorts have raised, I think it's like really very important points. And I think the really crucial thing is how much time are you investing into yourself or on yourself? Because you don't expect somebody to give you their time or their money or resources if you are not as crazy about your success as they should be. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. So far we've touched on community, building the right relationships, and honing your craft. And I think for me, my advice to everyone in the room is learn to ask for help. I think a lot of people who are creative people are hustlers. Like, we're gonna get it done regardless, but sometimes asking for help makes the process easier. It means that you deliver on your vision a lot better. And I think that's my main advice, is learn to ask for help. Even if the person says no, keep asking for help until you get the answers that you get.
But that's coming from one side. I think you should add that we should also collaborate. Mm-hmm. Because you will ask for help and you know how we are.
Like a one-sided...
Yes. Yeah. So, yes, ask for help, but also we should nurture that collaboration spirit. Like, we should come together and create. So,
Can I add one more thing?
Of course, Kofi.
I always have something extra to say. I think you guys should also not be scared to make mistakes. And this is actually coming from a place of knowing. This is someone who, like, over the years, you guys should try any and everything to find your unique voice. Get all the rut out. You know, sometimes inspiration and your creative expression is like a pipe. Sometimes you have all sort of gunk and stinks inside. And you just have to let all the nonsense come out, to allow the good stuff to flow. And I think the problem, at least for me, is we live in a society where failure is demonized, is frowned upon. But the people fail to realize that failure is actually a superpower, because now you know, you have first-hand experience of knowing what doesn't work. And it actually saves you some time. Okay, so don't be scared to make mistakes. Make all the mistakes you can make when you can, make them. And then, you know, you'd always have light at the end of the tunnel at some point. But also, a lot of creatives don't like reading. They don't like speaking with people who have experience, because it can save you a lot of time, okay? If I know that, Charlie, you can't mix water and oil, you never tried some before. I do some tire for 10 years. I know it doesn't work. I learned the hard way. I can pass on that information freely to you. You just saved yourself 10 years. You see, so it's all part of building a community, because all these things are interlinked, interconnected, you know? And what Mutombo said is super important, values proposition. A lot of our transactions are very one-sided, okay? And I believe everyone has something to offer the other party. You know, it changes from time to time, but you should always be in a position to better yourself so that you can give value to somebody else and get something in return. I don't know if that's clear.
Very clear. Definitely, you have something.
So just to add to that, you know, these are very, very intelligent contributions. I wanted to just speak on how you can actually build out a community. We all, like you said, building relationships, you need to do your work, like you need to put in your actual 10,000 hours. It all falls back to you being able to decide that, look, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to go down this music path, and what community can I build around it? I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that works in Maven, and they go ahead to tell their artists to find 30 people in each line that they want to build a community in. So if as much as you want to build a radio relationship, can you find 30 people within your space of, say, you start your career today, and in the next 5 years, you target, I want to have 30 people at radio that I can reach out to. Like I have 30 people at radio that if I drop a record today, I can send them the song on WhatsApp like, hey, I release new music. Do you have 30 DJs? Do you have 30 photographers and creative directors, visual guys that are just your friends? 30 stylists. You look at this thing, and in a space of 4 years, across every arm of this business, to booking agents, promoters, guys in the corporate world, in the bank, DSP relationships, you know, label managers, just normal. You hear somebody on Twitter is an A&R. Do you have 30 of these guys in 4 years that you can reach out to directly from your phone? If you list out 8 parts, 10 parts of the industry, you find 30 people each. You have 300 people that know you by name and are preaching your gospel in 4 years. And that's easy work.
You mentioned something about during the pandemic. Is that when you started your
Yes.
business? Yes. So can you let us know? Because, I mean, the pandemic was a scary time for everyone, especially creatives. What made you how did you get started? And when did you realize that you were onto something?
Like I said, I started with parties. I've been throwing parties all my life. And I met an artist in 2019 through one of my parties that asked me to manage him. And then early 2020, he asked me in early 2020. So that was like January. And in February, I'm still in school that time. I'm still in uni. I attended Landmark University. And then they tell me to leave, like everybody needs to go home because it's COVID. So I get home, I have time on my hands. And artist just asked me to manage him. I told him I'll get back to him. But like I didn't have any other thing I was gonna do. You know, nobody knew when COVID was gonna end. So I'm like, okay, you know what, let me put my time into this. So I had the whole of COVID to try to learn it. And like he said, I didn't go to any school. I never sat any master class like this. I went on the internet and I downloaded books. Tried to understand the master side of music, tried to understand publishing, There's a lot of podcasts. I call podcasts where Mr. Easy was speaking at some point. I'd play that shit over and over again. Donna Wong had some podcasts out. Like, I just kept listening to the most random stuff about this thing, just out of plain curiosity. Through my parties, because I was throwing parties, so my community started there, I already knew a couple people in the industry. So I was already providing some certain level of value, which was parties. People love to have a good time. And my value that time was I could provide a good time. So by that, I had relationships with producers, A&Rs. I knew Bizzle through my parties. And then the first move I made for my artists was, okay, let's do a recording camp. By virtue of me throwing parties and being around these guys, I had seen what artists used to do. I had researched and found out how artists move. So I set up a recording camp. In that, my direct community, I could reach out to producers. I think Dara the Boy came for the first camp. Oxlade has been attending my party since when it was Olaiton, not Oxlade. So Oxlade came to the camp. Sounds, YKB, they all came to the camp. This artist at that time was Victoni. He was a rapper at that point in time. So they all came to the camp, and it was in that camp he started making Afrobeats music. And this was like March 2020. You get? Yeah, that's how I started.
Okay.
That's super fast.
That sounds really inspiring. Matumbo.
Please, the question.
No, it's not really a question. Can you let me know, like, when you knew how to monetize yourself, like, as a creative?
Okay.
Like, when you were like, okay, I maybe don't want to go into the traditional path, but I want to be a creative, but obviously you have to survive.
Okay, cool. So, if you know me very well, for those who know me, like, Beat Menace, I started as a spoken word act in Ghana. I started at the time where there were no spoken word artists here in Ghana. I was lost, or I was dropped in the midst of people who were rapping. So back in the day, there was this open mic session. Most of you were not born then, or but it was called Lyricist Lounge. Yeah, this started in 2006, 2007. Do you remember the Lyricist Lounge?
Of course.
Yeah.
They meet spy for that.
Yeah, Kwekwa Nancy. Shouts to Kwekwa Nancy. And I was writing dope spoken word pieces, but I had nowhere to go and, do them. And a friend told me about the Lyricist Lounge. I went there. I remember my first day, it was Trigmatic, and someone else, I can't remember. And I did my thing, and
Shaolin
that was...
Mongfong.
Yeah, Shaolin Mongfong. And I did my thing, and that was the start. Oh, I can actually do this. And like I said earlier on about relationships, the first day, I went to the man behind the turntable. That man was Kwekwa Nancy. And I'm like, yo, I am new here, and I'm new in this. He was like, yo, I was even coming to you, so you wait, so you stand there. And that started. 2012, I put my first spoken word album, hearing photosynthesis. And that comes to your question. How did I do it, or how did I make money off it? Streaming was here and there. It wasn't great then, Yes. And I had a band camp with so many followers. I don't know if they were called followers, but yeah, with friends, so many friends. And I'm like, okay, am I going to put photosynthesis on Bandcamp and get coins? You will buy, people will buy, and then you'll get money. Yeah. But the payment system in Ghana then online was the pits. So what did I do? A hustler like me, I found money and went to make CDs. Shouts to one guy who I'll always mention, his name is Panjianov. Panjianov helped me with money, and I went to print CDs. I printed about 3,000 photosynthesis album. And at that time, people had heard of Mutombo the Poet. I was going to shows, you just name it. I've done everything before, from TV3, The Mentor, TV3 Mentor, Miss Legon, Miss Ghana, or whatever. I've done all of it. The money was good, But I always had my backpack with me wherever I went with photosentences. Even though I didn't have a fixed price, I would give it to people, or how much, you just give me everything whatever. I sold over 2,500 photosentences.
Okay, you guys have to clap for that one.
Yeah, 2,500. And about 200, 300 copies, I give it out for free. But I sold 2,500 out of my backpack and my car. You know, and that was then. I feel now the opportunities are endless because we have Instagrams, you know, we have so many things going on now, and it should be easy. Yeah, because if I did it back in 2012, 2013, then, you know, imagine this. So, yeah, that's how that was my first move. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very inspiring, guys.
Mutombo is in line. He literally bullied me to buy 2 of those CDs. I still have them. And the thing about his backpack, it was a Jan Sport, the Kaiwa. Yeah.
So Kofi, I mean, I feel like you're a multi-hyphenate in the creative scene.
Right.
What exactly has it been for you? What has made it click for you to make a living? Especially someone like you who have dabbled in different industries in the music space.
So my answer to this question is not linear because I grew up as an artist. I come from a very academic type background. And so I started drawing, painting when I was old enough to like clutch a pencil, literally. And I also started making music around that time. So probably when I was like 4, my brother and I, you know, we had like a thing where we would make our own versions of songs, right? And a very good friend of mine was the one who introduced me to using computers to make beats. At the time, personal computers were not as common. And when we had a computer in the house, it came with a warning, you know. When your parents are not home, you don't touch the computer, you know. So it was, and I was a very stubborn kid. I mean, if I have a kid like me, I'd get rid of them and make another one. So basically, I was always gravitating towards everything I wasn't supposed to do. And I was pretty young. Everyone knew me in the class because they would always add my name to the names of talkatives, because when the teacher was in there, I'll drum on the table or beatbox and somebody would rap or I rap and that sort of thing. That's how it started. And so when I was old enough to, I was very young. I started really, really early. And so I guess there was a certain level of privilege attached to that. So 2 things happened. I started a rap group with a friend of mine. One of them is Serial. Some of you may know him, 3 Music. We're in a rap group together with another friend who is an architect right now somewhere in London. And yeah, I was a rapper. And and we tried to emulate all these like hip-hop records we had access to, you know, that we came with a whole lifestyle thing, wearing baggy jeans and so on and so forth. So a lot of the stuff Mutombo is mentioning, I was actually around then at the time. And I was very, very young, you know, but I used to hang around like people who were much older, and we never knew what we did might amount to anything. And at some point, I cultivated a habit of actually documenting a lot of this. So I may actually have footage of that Lyricist Lounge thing, you know, mini DV tapes back in the day. So that was on the one hand. And I started working for an ad agency pretty early, and they realized I could make beats, and I was the youngest in the company. So I'll do jingles for ads, for TV, for radio, and sometimes they'll send me to like a proper studio to go help get like voiceovers done, right? So I'm talking maybe 13-ish, right? And then I realized that there's a very popular Ghanaian artist, I'm not going to mention his name, because the first time I went to his studio, I lost respect for him small. He put gaffer tape on the brands of all his equipment and his microphone. He didn't want people to realize. I've mentioned it to you before. And I found it surprising because I had some of the stuff he had. And so I'm like, so this is a guy who is it's not all that. And to make matters worse, he wasn't also very friendly, So I had this animosity somewhat against the system and establishment, so to speak. So I made it a point to learn any and everything I could, given the least opportunity. And I make a mean cup of coffee. I'm like a tea guy. I mean, me and Gofi fight to the death over that, but it'd be a different matter. But any chance I got to being in a studio space, especially outside of Ghana, I would ask a lot of questions. And over time, I just bought books and magazines. And the last time I checked, I had probably more than 600 of those. And there was a chance meeting between I and a friend of a cousin. This was in London, White Boys. So we also started a short-lived rock band that actually went on to do pretty well, sold in excess of 300,000 copies. So I actually have a double silver plaque, and this was like way back. So I knew there was money, And so like I did mention, I got lots of books and material, and I chanced on ISRC codes and something called Nielsen SoundScan. Now they've become Luminate,
yes,
right?
Illuminate now.
Yeah. So I did my research. This was just before, I must have been in secondary school at the time. Right now you say senior high, right? And I did my research and found out that the Nielsen company were actually in Ghana. And they had an office just across the street, the Shiashi Junction. There's a high-rise. Is it Golf House or Gold House? One of them. They were on the top floor. And so I went there and I asked, I said, I'm part of a rap group. I want to start selling CDs. How can I get SoundScan? And the lady I spoke to laughed and said, they're not giving us the business opportunity to actually introduce our SoundScan service here. So what Nielsen had been doing in Ghana up until that point was to actually collate data for multinational companies. Yeah. And this was in like the early 2000s. So since then, I was like, I realized quite early that some of the traditional pathways for monetizing music and actually keeping very accurate records of sales, I learned very early. And that's when I started learning about music publishing. I started learning about splits. And I'd buy books and just give to people, anyone I met. The first time I met Sarkodie, a producer he was working with at the time, he hadn't blown yet, Nee King of Accra. He brought him to my house. I had a copy of Donald Passman's book. It was like the second edition. I gave him a copy. I was like, dude, you rap really, really well. You need to understand publishing. And I just started buying books and just giving people. So that's how it started. And then when I realized we had certain loopholes in our space, I focused or leaned heavily towards advocacy. So policy reform, fighting with our CMOs. Yeah. Have I answered your question?
I mean, it's been in there. It's in there.
Yeah, so that's how I found out, how to make money. It's a long, winding tale, but, yeah.
Okay. I mean, there was a lot there, but there's one thing I do want to touch on, and it's the Nielsen, which is now Luminate, and what it does. I don't know if you want to explain it, but essentially it allows people to understand like how much they've sold on different platforms, whether it's in person or digital, right?
Right. So sometimes I'm sure many of you may have chanced on news saying maybe Rihanna sold 10,000 or 1 million copies on her first week of release. This is the company that used to be responsible for that. Still is. They've rebranded.
Yeah, they've just rebranded.
And they have sort of moved into the digital space. Of course, they have to reflect the times. So that's very, very important because I'm sure some of you have read about pre-release campaigns, playlisting, and all that kind of stuff. And if you release your song through a proper structured label, and a publisher or a distribution service that works with some of these companies, they can collate that data and send it to Billboard. And that's how people get on the Billboard charts.
Yes.
Okay? Does it make sense?
Okay. I think for me, I want to kind of come back to you, Daphne, because you seem to be more on like the event space. You seem to have some artist management. You're also doing music in your own like you're in music in a certain way.
Yeah, I don't make though.
No. So I think for me, in terms of money, is how do you get money from other people to make your projects a reality? Because with everything that you've mentioned, I know it takes the relationships, but what exactly are the steps you would give advice to people who maybe haven't fully built out anything, but maybe they've been throwing their own parties? They have small communities they've been gathering, but now how do they learn to get other people to invest in that community that they've built?
Okay. I think that starts with self. You need to understand what value your community brings and what value you're providing to your community. Like I said, it was parties for me, and let me speak from the live side, then I'll go to music. So on the live side, for me, it was parties, and then my parties were gathering a lot of young people. It was gathering a lot of babes. That's one, and then it was gathering a lot. It was gathering a lot of industry guys. Now, to brands, that was a gold mine. They had the young people, the Gen Z. This was 2019, I was still in uni. A lot of brands were looking to tap into the university crowd. So like it was gathering a lot of that. And then they're seeing that there's a lot of artists coming from there. So when I started my first festival brand, before I started even in there, I had something called Let's Relate. Let's Relate for me at that time was I was focusing on platforming the next artists or like the guys that just blew or are just about to blow. So when I had the first Let's Relate in 2019, it was in Lagos. Before I did Let's Relate, I had done something in my school called MAF, Music Art and Fashion Festival. I was a model, a fashion guy, you know. And then I woke up one day and I like analyzed my life like, this modeling thing is not going to take me to where I want to go. So I said, what's the one thing I can do in my sleep? Which was throw parties. So the first thing I did was I built an event around fashion in which I was formerly in. That did well, it was amazing. I needed to convert that into Lagos. So I came to Lagos to do something. Now, my immediate audience was university. The theme of the first event for me was Covenant meets Landmark. They are two sister universities that I had never met. I was attending Landmark University, but there had never been an event that brought the two sister universities together. So we did that just to connect that gap. So the brands that supported that event, they were tapping into a university crowd. They didn't give me funding. Coke, we had pitched, I had made maybe like a 50-page proposal of rubbish. And I was cold calling and cold mailing. I was just sending and sending and sending. Nothing came from that pin. I knew a guy. I told him I've gone around. Like he had seen that I was trying to get sponsorship. So he introduced me to somebody at Coke. At that point in time, they were not going to give me funding because I could not, the only track record I had was in school. So they were like, okay, they were going to brand the event though. I took risk. And I will not accept, you need to have heart to take the kind of risk I took. I took loans to pay direct, it's not a loan where, if you take loan in the bank, you're paying a percentage on interest on the business. It was 500K pay 750 in 1 month. Those type of loans. I took two from two people. So it was just a risk situation. Now, I put that money down and I booked Rema. That was Rema's first show on the mainland in 2019. It was about 850,000 naira. Then I started making a lot of calls. I called a lot of people, book stage, paid deposits, I'm still owing balance. Book this one, paid deposits, I'm still owing balance. By the end of the math I did for the event, I was going to pay another 900K in balances after the event brings revenue. Now I'm doing my math, no experience. I'm doing my, air math.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, I have Rema, he just dropped to me B, he's hot. If I sell tickets at 1,000 naira, I'm doing it in Yaba, near Unilag. It's near Unilag. They know that Covenant has fine babes, Landmark has fine babes. At least I should pull 5,000 people. If 5,000 people pay 1,000 naira each, that's 5 million. There's no which way I'm not making bank. Dreams and imagination. Now, I go ahead and I do this event. And then there's 2,000 people in attendance. At 2,000 people, it is a success. But you on the business side, when you're doing the math, I see 1.7 million naira revenue. So my guy enter, guy, 300 is missing, but there's 1.7. And inside that 1.7, I pay people their balance. stage guy balance, sound guy balance. I'm left with 1 million. So I go back to the two people that I borrowed money from and I tell them, hey, I did this business. It didn't work. Here's your 500K back. Here's your 500K back. Do you understand? I hope we'll be able to do business some other time. 5 days later, the first guy sent a police letter to my mother, gave me 30 days to pay it, so they'll come and pick me up in my house. 5 days. The second one was even more lenient, but he was even in my school. He was a lecturer's son. I think 2 months down the line, that one had reported me to the father had reported me to the dean. By the time I resumed in January, the dean told me they don't want students like me there. I became a target. So when I say don't take those type of, except your heart is ready for it.
Yeah.
It was a big risk at that point in time. But what did that do for me? It proved to Cook that I had that value. I had that university audience. I could organize the show right. This was June 2020. June 2019, sorry. In June 2019, when summer break. By July, I walked into a bar. I'm a very good networker. I walk up to you and tell you. So I walked into, it was Slippery Lounge at that point in time. And then I see a screen where there's a Hennessy ad. And the Hennessy ad is about hype men. And the hype man on it was Jerry Schaffer. And he was sitting right across there. So I walk up to him. I'm like, bro, Alpha now, this is me. This is what I do. Introduce myself. I told him about my event. And he laughed. It's like he heard about it. Because that was the first place Rema ever performed on the mainland. So he heard about it. It's like, oh, he works with Hennessy, and we're going to a conversation. 2 weeks later, he's telling me, yo, he talked to Hennessy. Hennessy is interested in partnering on the event. They want me to do 6 editions this year.
Amazing. You guys clap.
So from something that was meant to be a yearly event, Hennessy came and told me I have to do it bi-monthly, like every 2 months. So in July, I had to plan the August event. So we started planning. Now, Hennessy at that point scaled my events from, I think the stage I did, if I brought images that are showing you, the first stage I ever did for the first Let's Relate, the total cost of the stage was about 350K. Hennessy paid for the next stage. The stage was 4 million naira.
Wow.
They booked Zlatan. I had Zlatan and Mayo Kun. Hennessy paid for all of that. So it was more like, okay, now, there's this brand that's ready to fund the idea that I accepted another brand to just come and put their brand there, not give me fund, and I was able to prove to them that I had value. In all of this, what I'm trying to say is, if you're trying to get money out of an investor, you're trying to get money out of a brand, you're trying to get money out of anybody to support you, value. You need to show them that you have value. Even with your community, what value, like your direct community, what value are you serving them? And then how can you then show people that have fund, that need that value, that, hey, I'm the guy that has this thing. You guys should come and fuck with me. Do you get it? And I feel like across from the life side of things to the music side of things, it's been the same MO. I could tell you the story of how I was able to, walk the music business up to where it is, but it was the same thing. I was able to prove to people that, hey, there's some value here. And like, once I'm able to prove that, it's just bank after that.
Wow, amazing. That must have been very scary, taking that level of risk.
Yeah.
I'm still taking risks today.
It doesn't stop. Matumbo, can you also let us know? I mean, I know that you were once Matumbo the Poet, but I feel like around 2019, 2018, you rebranded to just Matumbo, from what I saw online.
It happened. It just happened. It wasn't planned. It wasn't intentional. So spoken word is. I don't want to say it's a thing of the past, because I recently was like, let me just do this thing, and I recently dropped something that I had. I know that eventually, so next year, I'm going to camp in Europe with my childhood friend, Mensa.
Amazing.
We are going to camp in Europe because Mensa is like, he's on me. I have to drop a second, spoken word, project, because he knows the deals that come my way. And for me, it's a mental thing. If you know my story, I'm afraid when I'm going up. I've been working on it over time. Last month, I was in the States. I saw my therapist who has been working with me for like 3 years now. It is, and wow, I've never said this thing anywhere. That's crazy.
I'm happy you're so comfortable.
What?
Safe space. It's a safe space.
What? Yeah, so it's Mutombo the Poet just happened, it just happened. It wasn't planned. And yeah, wow.
So yeah.
The man is shocked.
But I mean, when you rebrand
Wow,
it,
I just said.
yeah, when you kind of
What?
I think it's
You
good.
guys, you have juju.
So after like Mutombo the Poets,
Yes. I
What's going on?
mean, so I haven't been able to put myself in the center. I'm not trying to toot my horn, or I am very, very talented.
very.
But I don't give it to me. I enjoy giving it to other people, right? And I have some close friends in my circle. I don't really have friends. People think I know everybody. I don't really have friends. But the 2-3 friends who are very close to me, and I wouldn't think opening up to them, they have been pushing me. My son recently, so I've been away for 2 months. I was in the States for 2 months. And my son called me on FaceTime one day and was like, "Daddy, are you a superstar?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not a superstar." I was like, "But I saw a video that you put online. That was my recent video, spoken word video and it actually hit me. Wow, my son, my firstborn, has never seen me on stage ever before, right?" And I'll come to something that he said. My son has never seen me on stage before. My son doesn't even know I take photos.
Oh, wow.
My son doesn't even know I can make videos. My son this. So I'm like, I still have all of these things and I'm still young. So why am I not putting it into me, but I'm giving it onto others?
Yeah.
2017, I met someone who was doing music, found her, and we did amazing well until I stepped out like two years ago. And underground, I've been doing things for people. I was in the States last 2 months to go and premiere a documentary that I helped direct, that I edited, that I oversaw everything. And it was premiered in Philadelphia. The whole cinema was packed. I was supposed to go on stage to talk.
Yes.
Though I was supposed to go on stage to talk, I'm like, nah, I can't do it. No, you guys should go. Right? I was flown to the West Coast last month because I helped this white man who has a band. I gave him a whole plan like 6 months ago. And he was like, "Yo, we want to work with you. So how can I?" Quietly, I went to the States. He's been following me on Instagram. So that was it. I was like, "I'm flying you to the West Coast right now." I spent a week on the West Coast. And I was like, "You have to manage this band. Like, you really, really have to." And I'm in Ghana. Here is, the West Coast. How do I do this? So Mutombo is still here, but I'm trying to find footing for me, for like me, everything I touch turns gold, and I'm doing stuff for people, and I have amazing friends. Like Beats Menace is one guy who I would call on any day. He actually helped me with this crazy case that I had some time back. Yeah. Now, coming back to, I might digress a little bit,
Oh, it's
but
okay.
he said, you asked him a question, right? And I see everybody here, like some dope people, but I was looking in the crowd and I saw someone who I know I have seen just once in my life. This is the second time I'm seeing them. I might be wrong. Pardon me if I'm wrong, if I have the wrong person. But the person performed at, the Menses last show at Beer Bar or bar.
Pandora Beer Garden.
Was it you?
Oh,
Right?
Yes, yeah.
You were with a group, right?
Yeah.
I
99.
never know you. I've never seen you before. And I know the song that hit me. For me. I've only heard that song once. I swear on my mom's grave. But I saw him and I'm like, isn't that the guy? And I told Mensa that, yo, that group, they are crazy. Now I'm linking it to what this guy, said, his story. You starting this thing in 2020, 2019, and where you are working with Vic, it's crazy. It's super fast. And I always say, I wish I had the brain of the Chinese and the heart of the Nigerians.
It's so true.
Yo, the Nigerians are fearless. We Ghanaians, we are quite slow. And I am a Ghanaian, 100% Ghanaian. But he did it in 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's not done it, but he's going.
On trajectory.
I saw you once and it stuck with me. I've not gone to Spotify. I don't even know your name, the name of the group. But
99 Phases.
99 Phases.
Yeah.
Yes, 99 Phases. It's here. I know you are trying to do the Spotify's, the Apple Musics, and everything in between. But I feel that that's a scam. If you were able to hit me, create that create that like farm. Like you have to have a fan base where they are even coming to your living room to party, to play board games. You are playing your songs. The next person next week is going to invite someone else. The next person next week is going to invite someone else. You are going to go to someone else's house. And you would see that you would merge into what he did. That was me digressing. But Mutombo, you might see things, but I'm still like 70% through to be aware of what I have. Right? I have this amazing, podcast, which is doing well. It's called the If More Let's Divide podcast. I started that podcast alone, and I brought in friends, right? And we are in season 5, season 6. We are about to sign a great deal, right? And I'm like, there are days that I'm like,
Is this your life?
nah, let me just stop this and give this to someone else. I've been told there are people like me.
There is.
They
met them
don't really, quote unquote, believe in themselves no matter what they have. Maybe I am that kind of guy. But I am always, am inspired still by people like him and like him who go online and learn everything. I didn't go to school for anything. It was online. YouTube, how do I take photos? How do I do this? How do I do that? So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Yeah.
You did, honestly. And thank you for being so honest.
Very.
I think-
So beautiful to hear,
Yeah.
his story. And thank you for opening up about the therapist thing.
I don't know how.
I've been telling myself I need to see a therapist recently, and I've been dodging it up and down, but I hope one day I get the strength to do it. Because he said something, I'm going to add to what I said about Nigerians being fast and fearless. Yes, we are actually not afraid of anything. The atmosphere would, if you're not scared of the country, then you should be first scared of the country itself before every other thing is minor. You see that thing where he said, you can be in your room having a friend of mine, Yusa, you know, just another guy that I know very well. He used to work at Maven, quit the job. His grandmom died, and before she died, there was a house in Ikoyi. So he had saved up from his job at Maven. So he bought paint, repainted the house, fixed up the place. And then he started using the place for like a little studio. I went there one day, and what I saw them doing outside the gates, I've never seen anything like that in my life at that scale. When in America, in the early phase, and all this just came from research, when they used to break artists, when you want to find a new artist, you go to a bar. Yeah. There's an open mic. That's where you find the new artist performing. At a scale where you're trying to do something like that and you don't even have the money for production, these guys had a boom box that had a mic. So it's a boom box and a mic. It's at night, so it's dark. Do you know what they use for lights? The headlamp of their car. So the headlamp of the car is here, it's pointing that way. The artist is there with a mic and he's performing. And everybody's by the car. Spotlight is on the artist. They did that thing. If you go to his Instagram page now, it's called Engage Space. They recently just did something in a hangar. You know what an airplane hangar is? In Ikeja, about 600 people in 1 year. It was an idea. He probably just had a vision of having an open mic thing, underground artists, community. That same guy went ahead to learn how to DJ. He's one of the biggest DJs in the house music scene. There's a budding house music scene in Lagos. He's one of the biggest names. I know when he started DJing. I started booking him for my events after I heard one set. At first, he started playing for my events. He would come and play for free. He probably played like 6 free events for me. There was a day he played one set. I told him to send accounts myself. Because you are bad. Some people, tell them play free thing, they'll be following you and drag. No problem. Do you understand? He's one of the biggest in the scene. He's built his own community of people that come to see underground artists. He's platforming underground artists. But if a brand now comes and wants to invest in that guy, some people would think he's doing juju or it's just by connection. No. What did he provide first? Value. Would you say, is money valuable? Money is valuable, I mean. Valuable. Your ability to provide value is what will give you money. It's valuable. It's the same thing with vision. If you chase money first before your vision, it's like you're running backwards. Like you're chasing this when you should be chasing this. Money is provision, it is for the vision. You chase the vision first, and then the provision for it will follow. So you're chasing there's no vision. You will get it and useless it. Money is like wind. It's like it comes and goes. It's now water. Money now water. Realistically, it flows. Do you understand? If you do not have where this thing is meant to flow to, it's just going to be sitting around in a swamp. And what happens in a swamp, at some point, it becomes smelly. At some point, it dries up. Do you understand? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to add that with everyone listening to this, I want you guys to know that whatever dreams or visions that you have for yourself, whether it's to be a musician, work in the music business, do events, all these men here have kind of shown that they didn't give up. Resilience is really a star word in this whole thing, because the business is not nice to creatives. No matter where you are around the world, creatives are always being told no in some kind of way, and you have to find a way to find your yes. And I think that's what's really important. Now, I kind of want to go to Kofi. I know personally, I've worked with you. You know, as I told you, I manage an artist, so I've worked with you. I know so many people have worked with you. One of the things I don't think that we might have mentioned is, as a creative, how do you handle conflict so it doesn't stop you from going forward?
Wow, this is a very good one.
I knew you'd be the perfect one.
Yeah, it's really tough. Truthfully, I'll be blatantly honest. We are in a business that is built on relationships. And where you have relationships, even between married couples, conflicts happen, right? And I think time, experience, age, doing a lot of stupid shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
We're all adults here.
And over time, I've learned one of the most valuable thing any creative person, any human being. You see, when you are creative, you receive inspiration or you get something from the ether and you express it in some way or form. It carries the DNA of who you are as a person. And if you're a shitty human being, you might produce great art, but eventually it's all going to show. Look at R. Kelly.
Oh.
In music, they be fucking. But Charlie, the guy, some way. You understand me? And I realized one thing, truthfully, I think to answer your question, like, in a very concise yet efficient manner, it has to do with ego, first and foremost. It starts and ends with ego. The path of a creative person and an artist is a slippery slope because without a healthy dose of ego, you become a hard proposition when it comes to selling or marketing. You know that artist whose music is trash, but when they walk in swag, they collect like half the room. Get place sit. It's ego, right? But when that gets in the way of your development as a person and where you're positioned in such a way that you actually burn bridges, it becomes problematic. I see a friend here, Esther.
Hey.
Yeah,
We're all a big fan of
we met
Esther.
not too long ago. So I'd known Esther like in passing because we actually did work together, and there was a series of events that led to me being like pretty brash towards her, and I was really unapologetic about it. Mutombo will go to the naughty corner, and I really admire you a lot. Because she actually walked up to me. Because for those who know me, I don't bullshit. Okay, my best friends are people who call me out on some shit. Like they'll call me and be like, "Yo, Kofi, you did A, B, C, D. That be some low thing. You be yawa guy." Eventually, like maybe initially, my guard might be up. I might be defensive, and then I take a chill pill, sit back, relax, and be like, "Nah, what that person said was actually true." And she moved to me straight up. She was like, "Yeah, you." And, we had this, that they are shy. I did chew some sandwich. I don't know if you chew again. It went sour in my mouth, And I apologized to her. And I really meant it because it came from a place of realness. And I cherish and admire people like that. And I'm telling you here in front of all these people again. Yeah. And I mean, at the time, certain things may have happened that, I felt I was in the right to say some of the things I said, which I was, but my approach to it was wrong. Mm-hmm. You understand? So I think it's a thing of ego, and we all have it, Charlie, but the moment ego gets into, like in the way of your development as a human being, that's just a recipe for disaster, because what we do is built on relationships. You understand? You dey cross some bridge for some river, you don't cross finish, and you start sore, you go die. No one is an island. You understand? So, I don't know if I've answered your question.
No, you have. So basically, like, what you're really saying is, and actually, it's something that, like, even I can remember. I think a lot of creatives sometimes take people's actions personally. And it's not a personal thing. It's literally like, okay, let me evaluate the full situation. How you respond to it can either hurt you later down the line than you don't know. However, it depends on like who you're dealing with, and then a number
of factors. You see, these things are not just black and white. It's a lot of gray area we are talking about here, because your personality type comes into play.
Yes.
I know somebody who has been through a lot of very dark stuff, and this person is very, very lovely. Like, the person walks into the room, everybody just loves this person. But if you hear the person's story and what they've been through, you go shocked. So you're like, is this person wearing a mask or are they really nice? You know? And we all have traumas, most of which we may not even be aware of. And some of these things actually manifest in various ways. And I think the path of every creative person has to be a path of knowing, being true to yourself. Even if it's something like, Mutombo said some stuff here that had me shocked because I've known this guy for so long, I can't remember how we even met. You understand? And when you worked with, I remember you coming to my house some random day, then at the chop MPC, I never go forget. No, before you started working with Ama. Amare, yeah. And he was like, yeah, Charlie. So I believe we all met at a mutual friends party. Like we used to have like random jam sessions. And she was like, nah, you know Amare better than I do. And I think she's very talented. I want to join her team. I want to work with her because I think I can bring certain things that could help project what she's doing better. And I said, do you know what? I don't think there's any other person who is actually well placed to do that than you. You may not remember that conversation. And he's also a very good salesperson. I keep telling people that Mutombo can sell water to a well. And it's quite astonishing that he never found his path in marketing because he literally bullied me my last money. I was stuck in Osu. He let me buy 2 copies of his CDs, which I still have today. But I think, so I really appreciate you for, being open and sharing that aspect of you because you and I are pretty close, but that's not something I knew. And I think the path of every artist who is relevant, you need to be honest with yourself. You understand? Because there's a spiritual aspect of what we do that people cannot put words, a name, a title to it. But when you put your essence through your music out there, people sense it and they actually gravitate towards you. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. And so I think it's actually one of the things we don't speak about as often. And we need to wear our flaws and try to be better people. And I keep telling people it's a moving target. Like a friend of mine, Pangiano, once said, the fact that you brushed your teeth yesterday doesn't mean you wouldn't have to do it today. So we are all and always a work in progress. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah. That does. I mean, I feel like we're getting a bit deep, but I kind of want to come back to something Mutombo also said about the CDs and how there's more opportunities that some of us aren't tapping into. Because I think with all of your stories, something that's very clear is you saw something that other people didn't see, and you had to prove to them that there was value. Mutombo, besides like the story you mentioned about the CDs, you said that if you could do it again with what resources everyone in the room has now, how do you think that would look like for you as a creative looking to get people to know who you are? I mean, first of all, I remember how I met you online was through your poetry, but then I remember when I went on Instagram, I think Twitter is where you were sharing your poetry more. But then when I went on Instagram, I met Mutombo the dad, and he used to have these adorable photos of him and his son, and then eventually I know you added your daughter, and then now you also do street photography. How is it, like, how would you distribute your art now, regardless of Spotify and all those platforms that technically don't cater to this market and how this market consumes music?
Cool, great question. How would I do it now? I feel now everybody is so engrossed in the digital space, which is fine. Like it is amazingly fine. But at the beginning of this, talk, you made mention of, I've forgotten, but something along those lines of, was it you or between one of you guys, made mention of. I can't remember, but yes. When you said solely if you were doing, your art form, like, as your daily source of income, the Spotify's and the Apple Music's won't help you unless you are someone who is like, on top there. Even with that, for someone who's on top, like, the Burner Boys and, whoever, they have a large team. Whatever, money they are getting from the digital space, I'm sure it won't be enough. For me personally, I will, or I, and I'm even going to do it with my photography and, also the other things that I'm about to embark on. I am that hustler. I am that avant-garde. Is it avant-garde?
Yeah.
Is it avant-garde? Yeah. I am that guy who has never been a follower. I have never ever been a follower. Like, my friends are into cars. I'm not into cars. My friends are into, like, I've been I've been using this bike for 2 years. It was after a year that I really entered and checked out the specs. My bike checked out the specs and everything. All I knew that it was a Yamaha. Right? And people will come up to me because it's a big bike. People will, oh, what's yours? And I'm like, oh shit. Like horsepower. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And because I don't care about those things, even though they are important. Right? And we have made mention of that here, right? Step out of the digital space. It's as simple as that. Stepping out of the digital space, because if it's not enough for someone who's on top, how much more you? Like, you have to step out of a digital space. If I do songs, right? If I do, songs, if I'm an Afrobeat act, aside online, we don't even go on the street and sing. Like, we are too bougie. Hey, Charlie, more flex. Yes, sir. But you have no idea who you are going to meet. To be very, let me tell you an amazing deal that I had, and a very, very amazing, another thing that I have not said anywhere. I went to the Volta region one day, and I photographed this guy. I came home with my phone. I photographed this guy, and a friend of mine called me somewhere, and he was like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I take photos. That time, I didn't have a camera. I was using my iPhone.
Yes.
And I was taking him through my photos on my phone. I was like, this thing is nice. Post. This thing is nice. And I wasn't keen on tagging Apple and all that. I posted that photo, went online, went to my editing software, edited it nice, and posted it online. Apple bought that photo when they were starting their online, presence, like their Instagrams, right? It comes up to the relationships. If I didn't talk about what I do or what I did, I wouldn't have had this money from Apple. So basically, step out of your comfort zone. Do things that no one else is doing. That is what I will do. I will put my stuff online, all right. I just got a mail last 2 days that my DistroKid is like expired, so I have to pay like 20 something dollars to renew. And these guys are still taking money. Trust me, you might not make $20 in a year. Are you going to wait for that opportunity to come for you to step out? No. I'm going to print T-shirts, and I've done it before. I'm going to make dog tags. These things are so cheap. Very, 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 very cheap. And there are so many things, like tech has made things so easy. And we know someone who knows someone who is doing someone this guy is here. This guy is here. Oh, now I know what they do. Right after, I'm going to talk to them. That is me. And by speaking to them, trust me, I will leave with one thing. I will leave with that one thing that I can use. You know, so for me personally, yeah, the online stuff will be there, but I'm definitely going to tap into other spaces. And now, from when I released my first spoken word album, 2012, till now, technology has made everything so easy. Yeah, Charlie. I don't know if I answered your question. That's the sentence of the day.
Thank you. So I think that for me, my question to you is, I mean, obviously listening to these two, I don't want it to make it seem like everything has been so easy. I mean, you have mentioned some bad parts, some good parts. When maintaining relationships, what advice would you give to people in terms of also dealing with conflict as well? Because I mean, when it comes to parties, it's like parties, you know.
Don't just take anything personal. You know, to be honest, just it's hard. It's easy to say don't take anything personal. In the reality of it, they will test you. Do you understand? But like every examination, for you to get to the next level, you have to take a test. Before it makes any sense, you have to take a test before you get to the next level. Human beings will test you, the world will test you, the devil will test you. Don't take it personal. Just keep that thing that you're looking for in view. The thing that made you start a relationship with that person in the first place. And I really believe in valuable relationships. Like, why do I know you? Do you understand? Like, if we did not grow up together, even people that we grow up together, there's somebody in this room that, like, we are very good friends now. He came out here with me, but if I tell you how we became friends, I failed out. I got into university, 100 level. I was doing my fashion thing, parties. By 200 level, they had changed my registrar, and my new registrar bought a new attendance policy. And for that attendance policy, you needed 75% to write exams. There was a lot of thumb printing. I was always leaving school, going to Lagos and coming back. So I had a lot of attendance issues. So I failed that year, and then I had to repeat the year. I was meant to do a 5-year course. I did 6 years for that 5-year course. Now, in my initial friend group, I was the smartest with a 3.8, 3.6 GPA. When I had failed, I dropped to a 1.2 first semester and 2.1 second semester. When I changed my friend group, the new friend group I got into, I was the dumbest person. Everybody in that friend group had 4.7, 4.6, 4.9. I ended up graduating with a 2.1 at the end of the day because of that new friend group I joined. So throughout my years in university, from like my third year till I left, there was no single assignments that I did not get done because the boys that were getting the answers for the assignments were my guys. Everybody's tutor were my guys. But we had a similar lifestyle. We're staying at the back of the class. You were able to identify. Do you understand? So I maintained that relationship with them because, bro, I needed to graduate well. And that was the reason why I got into a relationship. Do you understand? They've had their own reasons for allowing me to have that relationship with them. It was an exchange of value at that point in time. But my own reason was, listen, I must come out of school with good results. Do you think in our 4 years of being that friend, we did not fight? If so, I should fight and go and fail? No. I know why I made you my friend in the first place. Keeping that at the back of your mind helps you navigate whatever reason you got. Like, you see beyond it. Like, okay, if I feel a certain type of way now, I'm not going to feel this way tomorrow or next tomorrow. Like, you know, bad like that. Do you understand? I feel like that has also helped me navigate because we're in an industry where there's a lot of fake friendships. Do you understand? And you will have to indulge at some point, depending on how you want to move. There's some people that they can't deal with it. I've learned to deal with it. You want to be my friend for a reason. I understand why. Like, when I say friend, we don't have to be best of buddies. But like, if I see some certain level of value there and I understand why, I start this relationship with you, I will see beyond disputes we have at that point in time. Sometimes it escalates to a certain level where, hey, it has reached its cap, and that's fine. Things happen. 20 guys cannot be 20 friends for 20 years. It will happen. But you will be able to navigate at least 80% of your problems by not taking it personal. It is what it is. That's fine. What's next? How can we move on? Solutions. You know why you started that in the first place. If you can keep your sight on that, like you said, reduce your ego. That one is internal work. Everybody, guys, like, it's not easy, bro. Nah, don't worry. It's hard. But if you can, reduce your ego, keep your sight on why you started that friendship, you will navigate 80% of your problems. Literally.
Can I ask you guys a question, please?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, Therese, your question was very, very dope. I was hoping that it would come to me. That's why I want to ask this question. When is it, or when does it become enough is enough? Because you are basically saying we should, quote unquote, play the fool, right? But we are dealing with people, right? And they don't care about your feelings. They don't care about, they are getting what they want from you. For you, it was that guy who was helping, doing your school stuff, right? When does it become enough? When are you going to say, okay, enough is enough. I have brought down my ego. I have been the fool. I have been this. So this is enough. Or are you saying we should keep on and keep on and keep on and keep on because you are going to get coins from them, or you are going to get a link up from them? Yeah.
Okay, go first.
I'm actually curious to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
But I think for me, I did mention something really important. Maybe I didn't stress on it as much as I should have. I did mention something about taking time to know and understand yourself, all right? And when you take ego out of the conversation, or the equation, sorry, and you truly understand yourself, you need to also set boundaries, okay? There are certain things that are, just for me, there are certain things that are no-nos for me, okay? Primarily because I was raised in a very African, yeah, my mom was a ninja with that stuff. Yeah, take chalote, more than boomerang. But hey, the older you get, the more you create. Sometimes it happens knowingly, sometimes it's unknowing. It happens unknowingly. You create a circle of people around you that recognize setting values or setting boundaries, right? And I believe in open communication, okay? And I've learned, maybe because I'm much older, I'm married, and so I learned a few things along the way. There was a time, it's totally unrelated, but I learned something really profound from some random old guy in some village. He spoke Tree. Tree is one of popular, yeah. And he said, no matter how angry you are in the moment, the fire and the anger you feel in your chest can never boil yam. I was like, holy shit. So it's like, whatever it is, just relax, take a chill pill, reassess. I cut off relationships all the time. Yeah, for me, I'm slow to anger, but I don't take bullshit. You understand? Because as much as possible, I try not to hurt people deliberately. It's something I'm really conscious about. And sometimes when on rare occasions, when I do something to hurt someone, I'm very aware of it because it deserved it. And knowing me, I'm a Pisces, Charlie. You understand? If you don't I'll be agent of karma, I'll go kill the person. Or write a song to get it out of my system, right? So I think setting boundaries is definitely very important. Yeah, but you need to have that compass, and I guess that's what wisdom is. Knowing when to wield fire to do something that's important that only fire can do, and when to avoid fire because you know you can burn your fucking house down. You understand? So it's like I said, some of these things are a moving target, but you know. When you know, you know. You know? Yeah.
I think my answer will be that you feel it. You actually feel it. I've enjoyed grace, so I give people grace. But it's the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, F the peace sign, blow the chopper and make it rain on you. At the first time, you know, like you said, like also he tries to, hurting people. Avoid, because before I go back to that, one thing you should also look at is if you see that you're falling out of a relationship with 1, 2, 3 people for the same reason, you might be the problem. It might also be you.
Yeah.
It might not, 3, 4, 5 people cannot fall out with you for the same freaking reason. Do you understand? Because when you fell out with the first person for that reason, you avoid it second person, and then second person, same reason again. You did not decide to avoid it third person. Yeah. Do you understand? So also that, like when you provide a certain level of grace, somebody does you bad the first time, you play the fool. Move beyond it. Have a conversation about it. Because you did not react doesn't mean you're stupid. At some point, you need to change it for them, though. But it's understandable that you allow. If they continually do it, that's where boundaries come into play. And then if you actually are of any value to them in that supposed friendship or relationship, when you space them, they will come running.
There's one more thing. I think we need to also normalize the idea that sometimes you meet people for a certain reason, and they're not meant to remain in your lives forever. You understand? Yeah. And they're like yesterday's trend in fashion. It might not make sense to you a year, 2 years from now, and that's perfectly fine. But all these human interactions are supposed to enrich our lived experiences to become better people.
Yep. And then continually growing. That's the thing. Like you guys have to grow together.
Yeah. I didn't ask that question for myself, but I think, or I guess we have so many young cats here who are taken from us. Yeah. And I just felt that, be the fool, bring down the, but I feel at a point it should be,
No,
yeah,
I even feel like I would like to answer that question.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working, when I moved to Ghana about 6 years ago, being American and living, with Ghanaians. Ghanaians have a very different approach to how they do certain things. And sometimes it can feel a bit frustrating because somebody's like, let's say, stabbing a friend of yours in the back, or they're doing this, and then everyone is being diplomatic. But eventually, I came to understand one of the most important things, especially combining all of their advice, which is sometimes it's okay to step back from the person that you feel like isn't valuing you and make sure that everyone else around the room sees your value, even if that person doesn't. So sometimes we get caught up in the situation, to say, okay, I'm right, this person's wrong. And we're going back and forth that we don't realize that now we start to look wrong no matter what in front of everyone in the room. And so now you have to kind of be the one who lets your ego calm down and say, okay, even if I am going to be calm about this situation, how do I look in front of the rest of my peers in this same space as a creative? How am I moving on and learning from this situation and making sure that I don't look bitter? Because at the end of the day, there are people who are going to do some very messed up things to you in this industry, and you're going to continue to see them because, unfortunately, I don't believe in karma, and it's for a number of reasons. Bad people succeed every day, okay? It has nothing to do with they did something bad to you, so someone's going to punish them. No.
God is not from your village, so, I mean...
Aligned.
At the end of the day, everyone has their own lives that they're living. We all came into this world by ourselves. And so how I see it is, okay, cool. Continue to just keep creating. Each and every one of them, what has inspired me listening to them right now is they've just kept going. Nothing is stopping them. And unfortunately, I see that with a lot of Ghanaian creatives. They come to our space and they're talking to me and they're like, oh, I started this thing, but I only had 1,000 views, so I stopped. And I only had this, and then I stopped. Or I didn't get playlisted, so I don't even feel like doing music anymore. And unfortunately, when I start to tell them certain things, they look at me and they go, oh, you're American. It's easy for you. You don't understand. But I also come from a culture or a country that you're also taught that you just don't stop. It doesn't matter if people don't like you, they don't do anything. You don't stop. Because once you stop, then it's like you're always starting over, and that's where your dreams die, is where you end things. I think for me, I kind of want to hear from every one of you, what exactly is next for you guys in terms of like, I mean, where you guys are right now, but like what's next for you? I know Matumbo has opened up about wanting to take on different challenges and things like that, but what is next for you guys, and how do you also like kind of give the crowd some more advice on keep going, even if like you haven't gotten to where you want to be, or even moving the goalposts, even if you've reached your goal, moving your goalposts? You can take that one, but yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. Very important thing she said, about not stopping. If you stop, there's certainty that you failed. You stop, you've not succeeded. It is certain, done. If you don't stop, there's still a possibility. So would you pick that certainty of failure or the possibility of it can actually work one day? You also need to know when to, like she said, shift the goalposts. Do you understand? Something that's been in my mind to speak on. I feel like everybody's too focused on streaming right now. Like you said, the DSPs are great. The world is moving towards streaming. I think about 67.9% of total, recorded music revenue was from streaming in the last year. But there's still another 30%. That 30% now, there's just very few artists that are caking from it, and they're not even African artists. So let me paint you a scenario. Let me paint the scenario of an artist I know. There's a guy from Nigeria called Jerick. Does anybody here know Jerick? You know Jerick? You know Jerick? Are you from the East? You're from the East? Eastern Nigeria. You're not Igbo, but you know Jerick. Jerick is an artist in the East. Igbo speaking, so native language. He raps in Igbo. Now, if you know anything about Igbo guys, they are very industrious. They are business guys. Years ago, when Jerick started making music, Jerick attached merchandising to his music. I'll pause there and quickly explain to you the 4 major ways of monetizing music, and then go back to where Jerick attached merchandising and what merchandising is doing for him now. The 4 major ways of monetizing music is what? The mechanical streaming, master side, that's direct payments from either your sales of records or streaming, money coming directly from DSPs, which is the mechanical side. That's one. Master, payments, royalties, direct royalties, mechanical. The second side is publishing. For composition, that's money being paid for the actual making of the music, who wrote that music, who produced that song, who composed it, is it on radio, are you getting sync and licensing, for all of that. All of that goes into like your publishing bread. That's 2. The third side is live. By live, I mean touring, performances. Do you understand? And then the 4th side of this is merchandising. There's a 5th side, but you can also tag that 5th side to either merchandising or live or, which is brand partnerships, Now, if everybody's focusing on the streaming side and the publishing side, there's an obvious lack in the live side and the merchandising side. Jerick. The moment Jerick started making music and started gaining influence, Jerick launched a brand called EU Cartel. While Jerick's music wasn't gaining so much recognition globally, or even in Nigeria, it was gaining certain influence in the East. How was he able to convert that into what? Community, value to his community, and then converting that value into money. What he was singing about in his music was a certain lifestyle he was living and the lifestyle of the young Eastern man. He expressed that in the designs for his clothing in EO Cartel. In 2024 now, Jerick has started gaining global recognition and he still makes more money from his merch than his music. He makes twice as much as he makes from the business of EO Cartel in clothing than his music in performance and mechanical. Is that bad that if you go to the East, young school children wear EO Cartel, if you buy a child EO Cartel school bag in the East, you are Father Christmas to them at that point in time. That's how much he took merchandising, focused on it. T-shirts, socks. I'm telling you, it is a flooding. We went out to do a show for Vic in Vic's hood in Vic's school, Vic's school in the East, in Futo, to do a show there. Jerick is one of the biggest young guys in the East. This is a guy that, as at the time of last year, he didn't have 200,000 followers on his Instagram. But when we went to his own show, Jerick's show, in Enugu, he did 15,000 people in a mini stadium. He wasn't topping the charts. He had created a core community in the East, had sold merchandise to them, and it became such a big culture. Now, this merch, when he performed at Vic's concert in 2023, he came on stage, the crowd went crazy. They broke the barricade. Jerick threatened them that if they don't stop, he will leave. They comported. Every single person in front comport. He's not blown. He threw that bag into the crowd. He did not come back in any piece. He dragged the toys to pieces. How many artists do you find right now that have that level of influence beyond their music? You see, when you're developing an artist, there's 4 things you need to try. There's like 4 stages. And like there's very few artists that make it to stage 4. My personal formula that I got to create. So you find a talent. A talent is I can sing, I can write, I can rap. You are a talent. Then you turn the talent into an artist. At the artist level, the talent is beginning to understand his craft. What is your recording process? How do you sound with auto-tune, with reverb? You're getting to understand your brand. What kind of hair should I keep? What's my name? What's my tag? You understand? You're understanding yourself as a talent that is now growing into an artist. So at artist level, you've become, you're honing your craft. You leave artist level, and then you now go into superstar level. This is where almost everybody dies, at superstar level. Wiz is a superstar, David is a superstar. There's very few people that cross into stage 4, which is becoming a business. I'll give you a few examples of people that have become businesses. At superstar level, you can only sing for, or rap, or write for so long. I don't think Michael Jackson will still be singing right now. The music will still be paying him though, but he wouldn't still be singing right now if he was alive. After superstar level, you need to move beyond that into being a business. And that is where, for me, touring and merchandising can come into serious play for you. Look at artists like Kanye West. If Kanye wakes up tomorrow and says, hey, I'm not opening my mouth to put it on a mic again, will he ever suffer financial problems? Rihanna hasn't dropped an album in how many years? How many years?
2019 was our last one.
Is there any female artist richer than her? No. Somebody is probably putting on fancy lipstick or hair. Do you understand? Bro, Tyler, the Creator, with golf, if he decides and wakes up that, hey, I am not going to make music anymore, he's used music to build influence, monetize that influence, build a community, and then sold value to them in merchandise. Started a business for himself. Do you understand? I will take it to the guys we know. Olamide. How many artists have Olamide broken in his career? He's made it now a business. It is beyond him as a superstar now. If he decides to sing or not, He understands the business of turning a talent to a superstar. That's his own business. And he's cashing out. If Don Jazzy wakes up tomorrow and says, in fact, you see this piano, I don't even like how it's looking, remove everything. I don't want to nag beat again. He has a stable business that will feed him for the rest of his life. There are very few people that are able to develop from talent to business. A lot of them stop at superstar level because they are not trying to explore all the other sides beyond the direct one that they are seeing. Money in hand, money in hand, money in hand. Do you understand? For upcoming guys, guys that are just getting into it, young managers, young artists, explore these other avenues that you can monetize from while you are building influence with your music. And start it as early as possible. You don't need to do everything that... It's not... When I say merch, I'm not saying everybody should make shirts. What does your direct community need? If it's stickers, if it's skateboards, if it's socks, bangles, candles, just think about it. The people that are directly consuming your music, the community you are building, what value can you provide them in merchandising? And start 5 people, 10 people, 10 pieces turn 20, 20 pieces 15, 15 can turn 30. With time, you see that can grow out, and before you know it, you've built a business conglomerate right in front of your eye with the influence you've garnered from music. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what's next for me?
Yeah.
Quite a few things. I mean, the road is clear now for me. I have people in my quarters who are saying I shouldn't stop my first love, which is spoken word poetry, which I'm very, very good at. Very good at. I have to say it as it is. So next year, hopefully, just checking out some funds if it comes through. I'm going to Europe with Mensa, who is, my homie from age 7. We are going to work on an amazing spoken word, Yeah, for me, that's one. 2, the road is clear now. So I worked with this artist, found her in 2017, worked with her through to 2022, which you all know. After that, phase of my life, I'm like, I wasn't going to do this artist stuff again because myself, I am an act. But at the same time, I think about others more than I think about me. They say I am an altruist. So I'm like, nah, I'm not going to work with any art again. But for years, or since I closed that chapter, because I had to move on, people have been hitting me up left and right to work with them. Some from here, some from Europe, some from the States. But just last 2 months, I was in the States, and I was called to come to a meeting. So it looks like, depending on the deal, and guys, sign contracts.
Yes, please.
Sign contracts. Beatmenes knows why I'm saying this.
Even if it's not a lawyer
You
contract,
have to
something.
sign your contract.
Any writing.
Any.
Yeah, don't.
Sign contracts. I am a living proof. You have to sign your contracts. Don't listen to any family, we are family, you are my G, you are my friend, but we are doing this together, but I am your son, but you are my mother, you are my auntie. Guys, sign contracts because it will hurt to see people change. right in front of your eyes. Oh, but didn't you say this? Fuck off. Oh, but didn't you say this? Fuck off. People, we are all, no one is like you. Sign contracts. I am one guy who never pays attention to contracts. I will do it, I will take it, but I will never sign. Because I am, and you know what, my mom, may she rest in peace, always told me, and she told me, I do remember a few times when she told me that a day will come when these friends or people that you break your back for will turn their same backs against you, right? Because people change a whole lot. P Square fought with his own twin. Like, twins, they went at it for a very, very long time. I don't know if they've now squashed it. So I beg you, sign your contract. I had to digress to state, no matter how small or how big, someone will call you for a show, and I'm not talking about contract like label, no. Someone will call you for a show, oh, we are paying you this, we are paying you that, we are paying 75%, 25% after. Sign that contract. Like Therese says, anything in, just sign it, I beg you. Because people can be vile. Yeah, so I was in the West Coast for like a week, going back to back with these guys, and the band isn't your usual band. The band head was my schoolmate, and he's now doing amazingly well on the West Coast. And I think that while he called me that some white guy, their boss, wants this, and I did it amazingly well, and they flew me there to talk. So it looks like I might, depending on the contract, I might work with them. So by the end of the year, that is also on the plate. And I'm taking photos. I don't do light camera action kind of photography. I do street photography. Once again, relationships. I was helping my friend at this food, thing in the States, in New York, just like a month ago. And this man saw me with my camera, a Leica. I use a Leica. And came up to me, I was like, yo, I work with these guys. Here is my card. And I'm like, oh, no, wait, let's talk. And he's one of the top bosses there. Gave him my Instagram. I was like, oh, Chai, you have to do a photo book. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, I'm actually planning on doing a photo book. And he was like, hit me up if you are ready. I'm like, oh, okay, trying to flex. But I haven't done it because of the funds. And this guy said, if we can strike a deal, and if I'm going to do everything with a Leica, he will speak to them. It might work, it might not work, because I like taking...
It will work.
Because I like taking, photos too with my phone. So that's also next. And I'm just looking forward to giving that hand to more people who need help. I am always doing it. And I want to do more of it. So that's next. And also having more kids.
Hey.
Wow, that was a loaded gun.
Congratulations on everything. That's really dope.
I'm super excited you mentioned the things you mentioned for monetization, because that is what we're here for. What is new for me? So in the last 4 years, actually since 2014, I've been like really hard in the paint when it comes to advocacy, trying to push for for proper structures, to hopefully build a music industry, because I'm one of the few people who actually think that we don't have one yet. We have a sector, we don't have an industry, because to me, what defines an industry is you put funds in somewhere, you create work, there's demand, for a product or service you create, you meet that supply, and they compensate you for that, and it goes round in the loop again, right? But we have a lot of broken bits and pieces in there. So one of the things I've been like really bullish about since 2014 is showing up for events like this, you know. In my old studio space, I always had an open door policy. I've never operated, since 2009, I'd never operated my studio commercially, but I closed it during COVID. But I always had an open door policy where I train people. I've trained songwriters, I've trained record producers, I've trained rappers, I've trained singers, I've trained audio engineers who work in a studio, people who work live, people who do spatial audio. It's the whole 9 yards, right? So my focus is still there, especially in Ghana. I believe my work in music is mostly cut out on the advocacy side. When it comes to music making itself, about 95, 98% of the stuff I do is not usually local. Or it's local stuff that is made for international consumption, because my theory is all art, even before the internet, was supposed to be consumed globally. One of the most popular forms of music that defines the Ghanaian experience, most of us here would agree, is high life music. The first recorded high life music, which was done in 1927, wasn't even recorded in the Gold Coast back then. It was recorded in England, mostly for anthropological purposes, but there was a reason for which it was recorded. So for about 15, actually a little more than 15 years, because I've been producing for a little over 20 years, and engineering, yeah. A majority of the acts I've worked with in Ghana are mostly tailored for global export, and they're doing amazingly well touring around the world. So some of these bands may not necessarily be household names here, but they're breaking records. They're breaking records around the world, and so I am really big on artist development, because I'm of the opinion that the DSPs have mainly just become an interactive business card that showcases your recording ability, okay? So I'll use one case study. Actually, let me use like 2 or 3. So one of the bands that I co-founded, co-executive produced, recorded, and performed with are currently one of the largest exports from Ghana, because every year they do between 55 and 95 shows, performing for between 200 and maybe 50, 70,000 people. And an album that I produced in 2019 actually topped the world music charts across Europe 3 times. And I think it was in the top 5, the 4th year. So another artist, some of you may know Ebo Taylor, who I've worked with as well. In 2015, 2016, he had a show in Japan. Tickets sold out in an hour. People couldn't get a chance to see the show, and they sort of camped, at the airport just to get a glimpse of the guy. And the guy sings primarily in Fanti, and he's performing in Finland, in Norway, and people are singing his songs word for word. You see? Another thing I'm also big on, how many producers are here? Another thing I'm really big on is writing music specifically for sync and licensing. And I score a lot of movies. One of the movies I scored actually won an award at Sundance, I think 2022. It was like one of the special mentions for Ava DuVernay. So that's something I'm big on. So moving forward, because I actually write, compose, produce, the whole 9 yards. In the last couple of years, I've realized I have probably more than 600 completed songs that have never been released. So late last year, because I also paint, sculpt and stuff, I took part in an exhibition titled Echoes of Ghana. I chose a very volatile subject that was dear to my heart, which was the issues we have with the economy in Ghana. We had a series of protests. A few years before that, we had NSAS, see what's happening in Kenya. And so my working theme was Oja, vignettes of a people. And it was essentially a series of paintings informed by protests that were sold at a merchandising stand, and then digital versions of the paintings that were animated and projected on a wall, and each painting had a unique piece of music composed just for that. So some of the people who had a chance to attend the exhibition had a chance to also smell unique fragrances that I'd worked with my friend's mom, who has been making like scented candles for over 40 years. And she took like 3 months to like cook up something that sort of embodied that spirit of protest. So it was very discreet in the exhibition room. You're smelling it. So it was just informing your senses in real time. So you're hearing bespoke music informed by these paintings. You're smelling, the unique fragrance in each room informed by the music and the art. This was in December last year. It was for 2 weeks. We converted like a law office into like the exhibition grounds. And we also got sponsorship from Hennessy, where we also cooked up like unique cocktails for each painting. And it had a QR code where you scan, it takes you into a augmented, a virtual reality environment and that sort of thing. So that's something I want to expand on because I have a lot of things I want to say. Not necessarily on, these days, my Twitter, my X feed is pretty decent. I don't rant as much anymore. I've decided to like do more painting, write more music to speak on that. And perhaps maybe I'll be releasing a lot of the music because some I wrote for artists that couldn't, maybe the vision of projects changed. So, some of these things were written for screen or film, and maybe the creative direction may have changed. But all these things are just there. It's just a treasure trove of music, from anything from folk music to high life to alternatwina to jazz to orchestral classical music to experimental trip hop to house, all of that stuff. So eventually, perhaps I'll just mess around and release some stuff. But there's one more thing I need to say. Some of the bands that I mentioned earlier on get their bread and butter from performances and merchandising. Some of them, I think one of them has like 30-something thousand monthly listeners on Spotify. Is it as impressive? But these guys can barely keep up selling tens of thousands of vinyl pressing. The problem I have with digital is it's one thing to have an audience, and it's another thing to have a fan. An audience knows your popular song. They don't know you. A fan knows very likely where you even buy your t-shirts, or the cologne you wear, or the aftershave you use. And that person is willing to starve to save their lunch money to buy your concert ticket and show up. As much as possible, you guys should be in a process of trying to amass fans and not an audience. Because the audience, a member of the audience here, Charlie, popular stand. The person is quick to jump on the next hot thing. They don't give a shit about you, really. So digital is very wonky when it comes, like for me, like I've worked on projects where, Charlie, the thing barely makes money. But some of these artists are pretty big. So for me, my bread and butter, Charlie, touring and artist development. Charlie, the internet has democratized the playing field so much so that one of your diehard fans who is in some corner in Stockholm probably loves Kendrick Lamar, probably loves Beyonce, will save their tickets, will save their money to purchase those tickets. If you can't give that same experience to that person, it might be problematic. And we have studio artists, we have artists who are not necessarily performers, and I want to make a clear distinction between that. We have people who are entertainers. You understand? And you have people who like really hone their... I tend to, like for artists and bands, I tend to gravitate towards people who have the potential to be molded to have the complete package. Because that way it's so easy to become the next Rihanna and create Fenty. You understand? So people here who know me, they know me, I'm a bit of an asshole in the studio because, Charlie, sometimes I'll let you take a particular line like 75 times until it's right. If you do a style of music where using pitch correction or auto-tune doesn't define the DNA of that genre, I'm not correcting your pitch. I'm giving you lessons to go take pitch, like singing classes to make sure your vocals are on point. You come back in 3 months, we finish that record. That's the kind of person I am. And so I'm not necessarily the easiest person to work with, but I'd focus my resources and my time into creating something that is timeless. Some of my favorite music was recorded when my parents probably may not have even met at the time. And it still, has its weight in gold. Have you noticed in 2024, we've not had a major Afrobeats breakout artist? Do you know why? How many of you have studied economics here? The law of diminishing returns. How many of you know that? You pump resources into one area, that area flourishes, the other side, it dies. So everybody was driven by numbers. And these guys make feel-good music. But many of these acts are manufactured in the studios. That's what it is. So these guys become so big, labels are paying millions of dollars to amplify the careers of these artists. The next, or the natural progression of the artist's career is for them to go on tour, to perform live. And the person can't sing for shit. So you've noticed a number of artists started canceling live shows. It was all part of it. So it gets to a point, and then the money or the investment you put in at a certain point in time reaps a certain benefit only to a certain level, and it starts diminishing. Last week, Atlantic Records fired 150 employees. 2 weeks before that, they fired 150. You know why? Do you know who is paying for all these artists who are signed? Huge monies. Legacy acts. The Bob Dylans, the Bob Marleys, the Rolling Stones. These are not new artists. And the monies they're generating for these companies were channeled into all these new promising acts who were not ready. I'll leave you with a piece of advice before I leave. In like 2004, 5-ish, major companies stopped investing in artist development. Back in the day, they can sign you to an artist label contract. You are benched for 8 years. They give you a car, they give you a house, you probably have a chef, a cook, whatever it takes. You have a gym instructor, you go for Pilates, all that stuff to look good. You do your vocal training. If yes, how many of you write your own songs? Artists here. How many of you produce your own music? Artists here. If you do a number of these things, it means you're doing the work of like 3-4 people. Songwriting is an art, is a skill in itself. Production is a skill in itself. If you engineer for yourself, then Charlie, the 10,000 hours becomes 30,000. Because you have what we do, the sum or the perceived value of what we do, right, is actually the weakest link in the chain. Now, you need to understand that the technical requirements for broadcasting are very strict. So if you use vibes like Inshallah, vibes, yeah, make we hop on the beat. You record your song and you record at 4400. Automatically, from a technical standpoint, you can't be considered for sync. Am I making sense? So it means you have to record at 48 and upwards, ideally. Then there's something called headroom. Because we are all in Ghana, restricted to Ghana. How many of you listen to Atlantis Radio here? Show by hand. How many of you listen to Joy FM, Obonu FM, Peace FM? Do you hear a difference in sound quality? Now, if you believe that what you're increasingly exposing your senses to informs your appreciation and what you peg as good quality, raise your hand. How many of you have gone on YouTube to watch a foreign video and switch to a local video and realize the Ghanaian song is just loud and distorting? There's a problem. They would reject your song for sync. There's something called headroom. So I'm giving you keywords you guys can use as bait to do extra research, extra reading. I'll hang around just for a little bit. I might expand a little more for those of you here who are interested. And also, since Therese is here, I'll use this opportunity to actually do a shameless plug. She was part of a project we worked on, which was aimed at democratizing information regarding copyright and let people understand publishing. And it was something we did with the help from the French government, the ministry in charge in Ghana, and the Ghana Copyright Office. And I was one of the people tasked to actually put the content together. And it's animated, so it's available at Jumbo Spaces digitally on all their digital platforms, on the Ghana Copyright Office digital channels, on the Creative Arts, and their web pages. So if you have questions about, because he mentioned mechanical royalties, public performance, licensing, all that stuff, all that information is there. It's easy to understand. You won't feel like you're writing an exam. What's next for me? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, if
Anyway.
you guys see Kofi around, he's very welcoming. As you can see, he would love to have a conversation with you.
Hi, Ohenaba. My artist name is Corvid, and the question I have is, do you think music is a good fit for someone who doesn't socialize easily?
What type of music?
I mean, like the industry.
The industry, yes. You can be an artist that doesn't socialize and still be successful. I could paint you a picture of a couple artists that are they're not outside everywhere. Do you understand? Hold on. Let me go into it. I actually want to look at a couple artists that they're not, in the terms of what social is, would you say Omale? He's one of them guys. Even guys, Billie Eilish now, she's more outside, you know. In her early area, like her early phases, she was more in her shell. Do you understand? So it's kind of like, for me, the music you make should embody your essence and your lifestyle. So if you're not an outgoing person, you're not a social person, your music should also be able to reflect that and connect with people that are just like you. You cannot be a not social person and you are expecting to drop club banger. Hey.
What I meant by that is, you mentioned the importance of networking and stuff. If it doesn't come naturally for someone, like, do you think music is a good fit?
Yes, it is, my bro. Find a team. You can't do it alone. That's one. I didn't tell you. There's another formula I have for being a successful artist. You know, I said talent artist, and then to be a successful artist, you need to, one, have talent. It's the most useless part of the equation, but if you have that 25% out of 100, you're fine. Have talent, one. Two, build a team. If you cannot be the one doing the networking, your manager, you find somebody that complements your weakness. So you have strengths. You can sing, you're an artist, but you cannot network. When you're looking for a team, you're looking for people that can complement your weakness. So you're looking for a manager that is out there. He's in the club. He probably, he knows how to move around. He's sharp. He can talk. Well outspoken. He can network. Do you understand? So when you're looking for your team, you should understand what you need, like the missing parts of you. You might not be a fashionable guy. You need a friend in your team that is the flyest guy ever. If he's invested in your career, he will tell you, bro, that shirt you're wearing today, change it. Do you understand? And that way you start developing. You start picking up traits from them. After you find a team, you get a brand. What's your identity? So after your identity, the most important part, which is finance. But if you have talent, team, brand, finance will run to you. If you don't have talent, you have a brand, you have a team, you have finance, you can buy talent.
Yeah. I think if you are that guy who wants to do music but finds it difficult to network, then I think you are doing your music for yourself, or you shouldn't do it at all. I'm going to be very, very blunt. Wow. And I'm taking it, here. Most of us here don't have deals. We don't have, labels. We are just doing it as, for us, ourselves. You see the examples that he gave? Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish. This, that. They started somewhere, but even the space or the location is so different. you can't compare the space here to that of Europe or to that of America or to that of Japan. The mindset is even different. You know, the mindset is even different. When they are talking about development, it means maybe they are building a skyscraper and all that. When we are talking about development, we talk about roads, but I even say for us, development isn't schools and roads. It should start with our mindsets. How we change, you know, how we think. Sorry. You don't have a team, and he also mentioned that. You are an underground act. You are maybe doing this with your friends, right? Yeah. And they might not be, you know, profs, like, you know, professionals. So it all comes back to you. You have to step out and go and do it. If you are lucky and you have someone like Beat Menace who meets you and goes like, hey, I'm going to help you, that's fine. But as an underground act or as an upcoming act, I think that's better. As an upcoming act, I think you should be an integral part of, you know, being in spaces and being in faces.
Right. And there's still a way around it. And I'll tell from my personal story. Like, because I've worked with two artists that are exactly what he said in the start. Exactly, in fact, worse than what you expressed. It starts with you, knowing where you're trying to go, and understanding and knowing what you might need to get to where you want to go. Now, when first artist I ever worked with was with Tony. When he asked me to manage him in 2020, his exact words were, "Oh, I've not seen anybody at your age doing the thing you are doing. I really like that. You can." Getting to know him, he was a shy guy that was not going to talk, doesn't converse, like he's in his shell. Anybody that still follows him till now is still who he is. He's just now more, it was worse. He just wants to make his music. If you want to catch him at his best, he's in the studio. He's the best guy in the studio. But outside that, walking up to meet somebody, he's not interested in any of that. Zero. But he understood that he needed somebody that would do that for
Exactly,
him.
yeah.
And
so he doesn't, because he said, would you advise him for him who doesn't like being in faces and spaces, do it?
Yes.
So we don't know whether it's just him or whether he has a team.
that's what I say, you have to find.
Yeah. But if it's just you,
You don't have to. It doesn't see, bro. You don't have to be. You don't have to find a professional. Look for the traits that you don't have. Look for somebody that has it, and bring that person close to you, and start from there. Do you understand? Yeah. When the hard things come, you can pass it on to them. Like I said, if you don't have swag, find somebody that is close to you, that you feel has more swag than you. That's your first stylist. The first stylist I ever had for Victoni is the boy I used to take to Aswani to go and buy thrift together. So when I dropped fashion, he was still very interested. His name is High Roller. Roller started styling him. When we started working on Luna, the stylist we used was one of the boys that used to, like, I told him I used to do fashion. He used to imitate my style, and like he wanted to be a fashion guy. That was the stylist we used. I did not have the money to hire a stylist, but I found a kid that was interested in fashion, and I used that kid to do something. Bro, work with what you have. Work with what is in front of you. Like, just don't go and be looking for professionals or one big manager or this bros that is here that can't afford him. Is if he likes you. Me, can't afford him. Is if I like you. But your guy that you don't have anything, he doesn't have anything, both of you are together on a gather day trenches on a 2-1 commot. He will put in more energy than that big bros that I already seen that everybody's chasing. You are not his focus. Do you get it?
There's a saying the late Steve Jobs of Apple once said that really hit me in a very profound way. He said, when the universe gives you an idea or the ability to do something, you may not have all the answers, but all the answers are right in front of you. It now becomes your responsibility to figure out why why you in the first place, and the how of how to get it done. Because usually, all of it will come at once, but some will be left for you to figure out. Yeah.
Also, don't be afraid to have an alter ego that you respond to via email. Have an imaginary manager. Don't be afraid to do that as well. Be like, okay, my manager will contact you, or this person would do this. Like, don't be afraid to do, or reach out to people and say, hey, I manage so and so, and then yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's been
You have to say your name.
Yes, I'm saying hi. I'm Esther. It's definitely been a very insightful conversation with all, the panelists. And if I may make a contribution instead of ask a question, I just wanted to touch on what Mutombo had asked during, the conversation, where it's like, when is enough enough? When do you stand up for yourself? And I just wanted to say that there's a difference between being taken advantage of and having boundaries, like Kofi said. Having boundaries is you, educating yourself and understanding the terrain that you're trying to, get into. You want to do music as an artist, a producer, an engineer. All the panelists have said something very important, which is it starts with you. Before you even walk into a room or try to socialize with people, it's also about where do you, stand with the art you are trying to create. If you truly stand with it, you truly believe in what you're doing, you will make the effort to improve yourself. Because guess what? If you're in a room with people who know their stuff and you don't, that is what will make it even easier for them to take advantage of you, play on, your lack of knowledge. Where, like Mutombo rightly shared, oh, we are friends, we are family, you're my brother, you're my sister. But my brother, my sister isn't what brings you money. Regardless of, the relationship, it's a business. You need to have structure. Just being very casual, isn't enough. So a lot of us here as creatives, we are also in a very vulnerable place where we have the desire to connect with people. We want people to believe in what we are doing, want people to invest in what we are doing. But you have to make sure that you protect yourself, educate yourself, understand even keywords, certain phrases that you might come across in your contracts, because it's one thing to read your contract, it's another thing to understand it. Mutombo said he will take the contract and he will look at it, but he won't do anything about it. It's fine, but then make sure you understand what you are actually signing. You can sign a deal with, an individual, with an organization, but what if you are signing your life away and you don't even know it? So it's important that, work on the mindset, change your mindset, take a more active role in, what you're trying to pursue. Because there's only so far that, other people will be able to take you, but then you also have to do right by yourself, educate yourself, protect yourself, because you honestly will be the one to do what's best for you. And last thing, the gentleman who mentioned being shy, not being able to socialize. Socializing, I'm an introvert, so I've come to learn that socializing also looks different for different people. For some people, their socializing is going out to the club or going to parties, meeting people at mixers and stuff. But then for others, it's maybe literally this. Coming to a master class, you're meeting different people. Everybody has different stories. You can socialize, less pressure. Once you know yourself, once you, at least you are learning about yourself, you put yourself in situations that are best for you and what you feel most comfortable in. So again, just to echo everything the other panelists have said, believe in yourself, sign the contracts, educate yourself and protect yourself.
Thank you. And we can take one more question. I'm sorry, guys.
Hi, Beats by Pepe here. I wanted to know about getting into sync licensing in Ghana. Because for some time now, I've been trying, but all to no fruition.
Okay. So I worked with one of the most respected and successful media companies in Ghana. They do a lot of content. I won't mention their names. But so my work with them eventually involved a lot of sound because I'll have to do a lot of forensic stuff from bad sound. Naturally, it evolved into, oh, help us make music. Let's slap some music you played the other day underneath, such and such. And I learned pretty early that usually there's little or no budget allocated for sound in our part of the world. It's still a green area. And for a lot of commissioned work that happens here, usually they allocate a budget, but Charlie, you know how it is. They would fleece you for bread. They go mia inside, you understand? And also, we did mention other aspects that he brought up, like you're supposed to get residuals, you're supposed to get royalties when, like, for instance, the movie streams and stuff like that, right? Two things I want to mention here. Number one, don't restrict yourself to Ghana, okay? Number two, you need to also understand, like I did mention, some of the things that would make it easy for you to have syncable music. The mistake a lot of us here also make is we are not meticulous when it comes to documentation and archiving data, okay? If you have the perfect song, now the crazy thing about sync is usually, even if you're lucky to get the opportunity, you usually have a maximum window of like 72 hours where you have to present legal documentation that shows that you actually own and control the music and you have a right to actually have them use the music, right? That's one thing. The second thing is, let's assume you tick all these boxes, right? And your music is perfect for a particular scene. Maybe it's an ad. The most important thing on the screen is the dialogue between the characters on screen. So if it's a song that has lyrics, for instance, and it's lyric heavy, how many of you are movie based here? You go watch movies until you see the credit scrolling, until you see that white globe at the end. You'd usually see a credit that goes re-recording mixer. What that means is you need to have your data, you need to have all your stems, because you might have the perfect song for the perfect scene. If your song has too much dialogue, they'll have to go back and mix it and eliminate your lyrics there or reduce it so that it's really low, so it doesn't conflict and confuse the viewer. And people have lost opportunities simply because they don't have the data, okay? So number one, don't sell yourself short. Number two, insist on your value, but also start from somewhere. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. It sounds like a paradox, like an oxymoron, but it actually does make sense. You have to build a portfolio to get to a certain point. Also, make sure you make the best possible work you can under any given circumstance. Because guess what? That's going to sell you. Marketing people will disagree. And I agree with them too, that marketing is very important, but also the quality of what your work is will open doors or send you into rooms that just mere recommendations sometimes won't cut. Because somebody can recommend you. If Charlie, it's not a good fit, it's just not a good fit. You understand? So looking to sync in Ghana, in your experience or in your opinion, was it mostly looking at movies?
Not really. I was trying to get into arts.
Arts is a good source of revenue. I don't know what your usual channels are or what the pathways are, but one of the key things you have to look for is actually networking with ad agencies and production companies that these ad agencies commission to do ads. Okay, that's a good start. And very likely you make way more money than you ever would, like making beats for rappers and singers in Ghana. So sometimes if you're lucky, it pays really well, but be warned because the accounts departments, yeah, Charlie, the accountant go divert your money into some account, make you reap after 3-6 months. You usually see the money way, yeah, it's just the Ghana way, you know. So I realized that I don't have too much grace, you know. I was tempted to buy a gun on a few occasions. I won't say whether or not I have one, but you need a chest full of hearts to take that kind of thing in. I don't know, have I answered your question?
Yes.
Okay, so ad agencies, and there are lots of them, and also the production companies that these ad agencies work with start working from that.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
I want to contribute something to what he said. He's answered it. The key things there, like you said, network around the art agencies, it falls back to you finding community. If you're looking towards the movie side, say you were trying to do the movie side, you need to, like I said, show value. Let's say you know your friend as a director, a young upcoming director, do you understand? And he's trying to do a movie. Offer him some music for free to use as sync for his movie. But then what then happens is if he uses it, you have one thing now in your portfolio. You can actually show somebody that, hey, I have one. Do you understand? And then focus on the residuals than the actual payments. Because when a lot of people are looking for sync, they're looking for that 5K, 10K, 15K, 50K fee that will give them immediately. But the thing is, you don't just get there by, if you don't have track record, do you understand? You will most likely not be the first, you will not be top of mind for the, whoever is collecting music for said movie. So you can really just start with who's in front of you. So that when you're trying to actually pitch, you can tell somebody, hey, my music was featured here. They don't know that's your friend. They don't know that's that person's movie might do amazing. You have no idea in the world who's going to watch it. It might be 50 people that watch it, but one person inside there might be the person that is selecting the soundtrack for Black Panther. From nowhere.
I have a Black Panther story.
Bro, you literally have no idea where it will come from. Do you understand? You can literally start with what's in front of you. Another thing you need to do is, if you're trying to actually get into sync, who are the most successful guys that have done sync in Ghana, in your direct community, like right here in front of you? If you can count, hey, 3-4 people that, okay, this guy in Ghana has gotten sync on this, and this. This guy in Ghana has gotten this, and this. Then you start looking for a way to find them. Where do they hang out? I'm not saying start, trailing people or what. Before you come and talk about, try and understand, how they move. It's research. Like, where does this guy hang out? Like, what does he do? You understand? If you get one day, you run into somebody that knows him. Conversation, you can now get into a conversation and then you can literally now ask the question of how he did it. But if you literally want to get into sync and you do not know anybody that has been successful in that space, then you have a whole lot of work to do.
Let me just add something real quick, sorry. About it's important for you to build community, but also over time, review the key persons you work with. When you mentioned Black Panther, I remember the story. So I worked on a song that was supposed to be part of the soundtrack for the second film. And it had us use like a 60-piece choir. It was like a really over the top, we're really excited. One of the key persons who was working with the studio got all the files and just relaxed and didn't meet the deadline. And that's why we didn't make it. Okay? The second thing I want to say is sometimes you have to make sacrifices. I hate doing work for free, but I do a lot of free work for people who, number one, can't afford my services. And number two, if I have the luxury of time to accommodate that sort of situation, especially if there's a future to it. Do you understand? because my time is precious. I prefer to lose money than to lose time. And sometimes when you make stupid decisions like this, you don't only lose money, but you lose time, and that's idiocy, right? So I have actually opted to score a film for free because the film company was co-owned by a very close friend, like a family friend and like an older brother to me. And I kept being called in to fix bad sound, to save them when they couldn't get clearance for like soundtracks and stuff. And I opted to do the score for free. That movie did very well. We got a lot of nominations, unfortunately. I got nominated, I think, for score for like 5 different awards, but I didn't win any of them. But that was good enough, right? But I'd been doing this for a while before then. Then something interesting happened. They wanted me to score the next film because they kept hearing like good feedback from that, but they were not willing to pay. And I'm like, my guy, come on now. You understand? So they got somebody else to do the score. I think they did like 4 films after that. I wasn't attached. I was only brought in to fix bad sound because the person doing Fulani, who knows Fulani? The person who handles the boom. We call it Fulani. It's industry slang. Did a pretty terrible job. So I came to sort of help salvage that situation. But then they got a big contract with an international company and they were commissioned to shoot a film. And this time around, they were the ones chasing me. I had to actually make time to accommodate that. We collect block. Charlie, I count the money finish. The next week, my skin self change. Your walking self could change, my guy. So look sharp.
You know what I just picked from there? Know when to say no. Just know when to say no. I know, as I'm sitting here today, I know my value. Know your value at that point. Don't overestimate yourself though, but know your current value. You don't want free work. I would. Why are you coming to meet me again to do free? You that I did it for you free before. You still come back. The devil must be working with you. Understanding his value at that point in time was him saying, bros, I don't try. Do you understand? It does not mean like nothing else will come to him. Do you understand? But he understands his value. When you see, that person at that point in time probably thought he has seen Mungu. He has gained experience. His work is out there. At that point in time, he's fine. Do you understand? He doesn't need to he might decide to do something free for somebody else, not you again. Do you understand? At that point in time, it's calm, it's good. Do you get? If the person is fine doing it for free, if the person is not, they'll let it be. They know his value. When the main thing that they need, the main work comes, they will look for the person that they know can deliver that thing at that quality. You just need to, like, general, just make sure you're providing value. Your own self.
All right, thank you guys so much.